Good morning. So, what an eventful couple of days I've had. Haven't done much work at all. Yesterday, I received a phone call from a distressed customer. She basically bought a few hundred buttons from me. She does every other month, especially in her peak season. She's probably my best customer. She'll spend like £300-400 at a time. And it turns out that I sent silver buttons instead of gold, and she makes blazers for the Henley regatta, and they've got their big doodah next week, and they have a series of dinners and events and functions leading up to it. And she needed to complete several blazers for 1 o'clock today. So I said I'd send the replacement buttons by next day, guaranteed delivery. But 5 minutes later, she went and spent another £300. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to drive down to Henley. So I yesterday packed my orders, got them done in record time, jumped in my car and drove all the way down there and back. I was absolutely knackered. I managed to get halfway through the reviewing of a listing, and then my next door neighbour, he used to be next door, he was evicted from there. He is in a right pickle. Back into 2022, he was driving along the M6 at about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. In the slow lane, the running lane of the smart motorway, where they turn the hard shoulder into a lane. No lights. He's got his dipped headlights on, and he ran into the back of a stationary vehicle. He saw it at the last minute, and he swerved but clipped it. He ended up being cut out of his vehicle and taken to hospital. And when he was discharged, that was it. But it turned out that the vehicle he was using was his brother's, and he'd asked his brother's son, his nephew, to put him on the insurance 3 days prior, and he didn't. So he thought he was driving around with insurance. Anyway, it turns out that the person in the vehicle was in hospital for several weeks. Mental health problems and all sorts of things with it. So he's got legal aid, and they've gone after the insurance company, who's basically saying that it's nothing to do with us because they didn't insure that person, my next door neighbour. And they've gone after my neighbour itself. So we've spent weeks on it, because they didn't have any records of my neighbour. They've had to get a private eye out, and eventually all the documentation relating to this claim has caught up with him, and he's ended up with about 200 documents. Apparently they've been outside his house, photographing his house, sending him letters, but he claimed he's never received anything. He knew initially that the insurance company for his brother was dealing with it, but he was unaware that the guy was in the vehicle, because he himself was cut out of his vehicle and taken to hospital, so he didn't know the outcome. There was no police report. He was just discharged. So when he left the hospital, that was it. He had no record, no knowledge of what had happened. The vehicle wasn't his, it was his brother's. So it was kind of his brother's loss. His brother had cancer at the time, so he wasn't minded to deal with it. So there's 2 or 3 years have gone by, and then all of a sudden he's got this slap across the face. But the documentation that the private eyes had provided them was, I looked at it and I thought, my God, they know everything about it. They got these name and addresses of every single neighbour within 2 streets of his house, and they'd gone and interviewed every single person. Do you know such and such a person? Do you know this? They're going after everything. They're claiming £600,000. His house is only worth about 250 or 300. He's got a couple of CCJs logged against it already. But of course he's been beside himself. His wife has been extremely distressed. He himself is 74 actually. So it's turned his world upside down. So I've kind of been helping him. Plus, he's got no resources or money to actually get a lawyer. He's tried, and the barrister wants £5,000 an hour, but he's looked at the case and he's basically said not his speciality, which is a load of bullshit. Went to another lawyer, paid £300 for a consultation. They gave him some initial advice to do this, do that, but they've turned around and said can't help. So 2 nights ago we said, let's see if we can basically find legal aid. So we was going through my computer onto the government website. You have to type all the details in, and the idea is that the form that you fill in online goes off to a person who calls you back. They have a conversation with you. Should they feel that you have merit, they'll pass it on to somebody more senior. They'll ask the same questions and they'll make the decision if you get legal aid. So we filled in the forms online, sent it off, got a 303 error. Bloody hell. You have to select a time for a callback. So I was setting the request for a phone back today, 6:30, the next available one. Tried again, same 303 error. So I thought, okay, I'll try on another computer I've got. I've got 2 computers here. Tried it on that, same. Started thinking it was the Wi-Fi or something. Then I thought, I'll try incognito. Same response. So, this is like an hour and a half already into it. So I said, okay, let's do it on his phone. So did it on his phone. Same blooming response, 303. I said to him, I said, listen, you know what you got to do in times like this, Andreas? He said, what? I said, pray. You got to pray, man. He went straight down, because he's a very religious Greek Orthodox. He started praying for about 5 minutes at the desk here, on the other side of his desk. I sat there for a minute. And I know that when I'm in distress, I read a Psalm 27, or 22, I can't remember. So I got it up and I read it out to him. He said, I know it. I said, yeah, but hear it again. So, by the time you get to the end of the psalm, you feel strengthened. You feel good for hearing it. It gives you, it's one of those psalms, who should you fear? Why should you fear? That kind of thing. So I said to him, I know. Let's try my phone, right? He said, okay, do it. He said, do you think? I said, who knows? This is worth a try. So I went all the way through it, typed it all out again. It's like a 15, 20-minute exercise, But I got a bit faster because I'd already done it about 5 or 6 times. Filled it in, but this time I changed the time to 7:30. Pressed enter, and we got a reference number immediately. Thought, whoa! His reaction, his response was like he'd won the court case already. But they didn't phone him back. He waited, they didn't phone. Maybe they'll phone in a few days' time, maybe they've got backlogs, But I said to him the next stage, I said, what we've got no chance, but no choice but to basically fill in the forms. You get these forms from the court. Let's go work our way through them. They'd sent him several different types of form. Do you accept liability? Do you deny it? Are you defending your situation? Are you defending your situation and making a counterclaim? And all these forms, there was about 5 or 6 different forms, but it was very confusing. In the end, I managed to sort them out, and I thought, this is getting a bit too... What do I do now? I thought, I know, I'll go into Gemini, right? Now, in the past, I'd sat down with him this was probably about 6 months ago, and I'd interviewed him on the series of events, and I'd documented them in a table, in a Word document, a Google document. Because he'd gone to the priest to give it to the priest who was supposed to be a solicitor, but it turned out that he was just a solicitor for mortgages. But I had this document and I dropped it into Gemini, and Gemini says this is brilliant, it's chronological, it's logical, it basically takes you through the series of events. And then I said to him, but I've also got their claim, the claimant's claim. And he said, drop it in. So I managed to do a screenshot. Very, very good. I've learned something yesterday. I've got a screenshot, it was about 6 pages long, and I dropped that in. And Gemini linked all the points together, right? And came up and it said, while you shouldn't be driving on the motorway uninsured, the insurance part and the claim are separate. There's nothing to do with each other. He can't make a claim against Andreas because he wasn't insured. He can only make a claim against him for injury, personal injury, the outcome of the actual accident. But the issue is that the guy was still sitting in the car in the fast lane. He said he was getting out of the vehicle at the time. But if he was getting out of the vehicle at the time, how come there's so much damage done, you know? The reality is Andreas claimed that there was no hazard warning lights. There was no triangle warning that he'd broken down. There was no overhead warning from the displays. It was that part of the motorway, there was no lights anyway. And he was just doing a steady 60 miles an hour on that inside lane. And that's what Gemini came back and said. This is the reality of the matter, is that the guy, the claimant, caused his own injury. Because the highway code says you have to get out of the vehicle and go and stand 40, 50 metres away and phone the police. But he apparently broke down and he was pushing his vehicle across the motorway. Something like that. So, but not only did it basically produce his defence, it produced his defence in legal speak. You read it and you think this is what a barrister would do, right? Amazing, absolutely amazing. I thought, you know what? Lawyers, accountants, school teachers, bye-bye. Last night, he and I sat here till about 10 o'clock and we were lawyers, or we had a lawyer next to us and he produced the defence in seconds. Well, you know, once we've done all our work, it summarised this, told us exactly what to do to copy and paste it, print it out, attach it to the document, make 3 copies, one for their solicitor, one for the court and one for Andreas, and then email them to the court and their legal representative. And we did all that last night. He was over the moon about it, because up until last night he had his defence. He wanted to challenge it, but he didn't have the means or the knowledge on how to do it. Gemini did it. Amazing. Amazing. Anyway, so we got all that done, and I said, look, ultimately he will have to go and stand in front of there's a hearing, you see, on the 7th of July. His brother's solicitor will be there defending their case. The claimant's lawyer will be there, and Andreas will have to go and stand there and represent himself. But he's managed to get this legal response in by the deadline, so he's delighted, you know. And there's always a chance that the legal people will look at it and go, yeah, no, in breach of the highway code, dismissed. Or they'll have the hearing, they've got an hour for it. I suppose the judge has got to sit there and listen to several different types of hearings throughout the day. So this is just one of several. They got an hour. Their lawyer will have to speak for 5 minutes. The insurance company will speak for 5 minutes, and Andreas will probably end up speaking for 20, because his English is a second language. He hasn't got great command of English, but he's gonna present his case, you know. Anyway, he has no choice, because his house is on the line. Although they can't really take the house because the house is in joint names with his wife, but they can basically take the house after his death, you know. But he feels very strongly about it, that he's innocent, because the guy was in the motorway. And, you know, I feel sorry for the guy. But apparently, we've done some research on it, and it turns out that that guy's a millionaire. And they're thinking that he does this for a living. You know what I mean? You know, it's one of these people where you're driving along and he's in front of you, and all of a sudden he slams the brakes on. And you go into the back of him and he's got, my neck. One of them. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see what the outcome will be. In the meantime, sales are terrible on eBay, but I'm seeing hundreds of other people say the same thing on all the different Facebook groups that I'm in. I'm seeing people talking about it on YouTube. They're all saying it. I think it's something. About 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, there was some kind of big change with AI, and I think all the big platforms and all the big social medias, they deployed some new development. That's what I think, and it's basically enabled them to actually leap forward with their development plans. And I think one of the plans that eBay had was to basically work off a catalogue in the same way that Amazon does. And so if your items don't fit in with that catalogue, then you're not getting any views, which is exactly what my metrics are saying. But the only way to bypass it is to promote. They'll elevate your listing if you promote. And I thought to myself, well, I've done that. I've done that in the past, and all that happens is I do get sales, but they just take a bigger share of the wallet, and I'm left with nothing really. And the issue is that most of my stuff is sub £10. So even if I promoted 10%, which is quite high, they're only going to get £1 for every sale. Whilst if we all did it and they got millions of sales every day, they'd be making £1 million extra every day. But that's not what they really want. They're not interested in small beer stuff. They want somebody selling a £5,000 watch to promote. That's where they want to make the money. Because if you think about an auction house, a traditional auction house, they'll charge 20% to the person selling, 20% to the person buying. Then there'll be like a tax on those fees, etc., and all that kind of thing. So if you went to a local auction house, you'd end up spending like about 20 to 30%. And since eBay is traditionally an auction come retail platform now, they want 20 to 30%. But 20 to 30% of a £10 item is only £3. They're not going to get rich on that, are they? They want 20 to 30% of thousands of pounds. They want collector's items, game cards, vintage watches, all those kind of things. That's where the money is for them. But they've changed their algorithm to grab that business, to go after it. That's what I think. And all our listings are being hidden. It makes you wonder about the ethics, really, because you're paying £70 a month for a shop. Historically, that gave you the exposure. You're in the marketplace, you paid your final value fee, you pay your fee to list. And what are you paying for? You're not getting any views. So you're just paying for the right to put your merchandise into a shop where nobody can see it. Because they've made it difficult to navigate to the shop now. That's why they have promoted shops. They've engineered it in such a way that if you want your shop to have greater visibility, you've got to pay to promote the shop. I've been thinking about using the order discount, which basically gives... Well, I'm going to do it, actually. I've just got to work through it with Gemini. I'm going to basically put the majority of my inventory into an order discount where they get something like 15-20% off if they spend £20 or more, that kind of thing. Because I really need to get people to buy 2, 3, 4 items. I need them to actually make the effort to go through to the shop and find out what else I've got. But I can't sit around waiting for a recovery with eBay. I just don't believe it's going to come. And so I've got to pivot again. I'm marching through these listings with LitCommerce, and I'm hoping to be able to start pushing some listings onto Etsy. I'm actually going to reduce the number of... I've reduced my listings from 1,250 down to about 935 at the moment, 935. But I'm going to keep on going, working all the way down till I get to 250. And then I'm going to drop my subscription from the medium shop down to the basic shop, which is about 25. It'll be about £27 a month. So I'll claw back some monthly fees, which will save me about £300-400 a year. And I'm going to try and put my best sellers into that 250. And I'm going to basically try and create bundles, enhanced value, so that the actual purchase price is a bigger spend. Like maybe getting 40 zips and a seam ripper, a stitch ripper, a bag of thread and everything to make a stitcher's pack, that kind of thing. And the curtain tapes, just do whole rolls and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to squeeze my best sellers into that 250. course, LitCommerce allows me to do 1,000 for the price, 1,000 listings on the marketplaces. So I should be able to push maybe about 200 or 300 items onto Etsy. But the other thing that's in the mix is TikTok. TikTok is connected to my Shopify store, and I did have a go in the past. And the very first time I did it, I got about 10 orders in the space of an hour, just one after the other. It was amazing, but then I realised that they were all free postage. I thought, no, they're meant to be plus postage, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. About a week ago, I dropped the situation into an AI thing called Sidekick inside Shopify. And I explained the situation. It did a review of the account. It said everything's set up, ready to go. He said, all we need to do is sort out your shipping model. I thought, great, okay, I will do that. So I'm going to work with Sidekick in the coming days and weeks to actually get my inventory or some of it onto TikTok. So I've got TikTok, Etsy, and a reduced exposure on eBay. But of course, I'm marching forward to the live selling. And in order to get to the live selling, I need to basically establish the group that I've got on eBay. I've called it Happy Martin Friends. And I'm very close now. Today I'm going to be doing the big piece of work to create some blocks on my website that will enable me to drop in products that I'm selling only on my Facebook group. The Facebook group's got no one in it, so I've got to get people into it. Now, the obvious people are the people that subscribe to my business page. I've got about 600 people there. So I've got to basically create some listings in my group and drag these people over into the group somehow. I've got to get them to join the group, along with reaching out to people on Facebook to come and join my group. The products that I drop into that group, they're going to be rock bottom prices. I'm going to basically just use that group to clear stuff off. So, for instance, I've got an example of what I mean. It's here somewhere. Hold on. Wait a minute, where are you? I'll give you an example. Somewhere along the line, my supplier sent me these, or I got them. So I can't remember how I got them, but they were a mistake. And these are, I think they're 8-inch YKK invisible zips. There's 10 of them. For me, it cost me about £3 or £4, maybe £5 to buy these, I think. But I'm just going to basically create the listing for £3, clear them off, which is as far as zips go, it's a bargain. 30p each. YKK, premium brand. But they'll sit in that group available for the first person who comes along, recognises the value, and if they buy, then they've got to basically click on the link, which will take them through to my store, and they buy it on the store in this group, not group, but collection that I'll create on my storefront, which I've got to do today. And of course, anything that goes into that collection, I've got to basically set it up in a way that they don't get any further discounts on it. So that's the piece of work I've got to do. It's quite complicated what I'm going to try and achieve, but it's achievable. Just got to think it through. The conditions, the terms and conditions around it. But I've probably got maybe 50 to 100 things that I can drop into this group to clear off. So I'll get cash in. I should get some attention from buyers. I'm going to use it with a bit of razzmatazz by getting people to share and like, that kind of thing. I'm going to do a few, I've got a giveaway kind of thing, whatever I discover. So I've got to basically start building this group. That's going to be one of my main focuses over the coming months. It's going to be a daily activity. I've got to basically engage with the people in the group, and then of course I can go live in that group. So when I start to buy some of the latest fabrics, which I plan to do, the idea is that when I get a bolt of fabric at 10 metres, I'm going to create a listing in my shop, and I'm going to create 5 metres at cost price and 5 metres with a profit. And then when I've created the listing, I'm going to drop the information into the group, have some kind of countdown to going live, then I'm going to demonstrate the fabric, and then I'm going to announce that, what is it, the FOMO, fear of missing out, first mover advantage. I'm selling 5 metres at cost price. They're available in my store on this listing. Go and get yourself a bargain. Once it's gone, it's gone. The other 5 meters will be at my normal retail price. And I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm going to build up some kind of, I'm hoping, I love the word frenzy, a frenzy, an audience that recognises that I'm unique in this selling style. Of course, I don't have to do it forever, but I'm going to do it with the latest releases of fabrics and deals and bundles, because I've got to create cash flow. Of course, I'll be selling stuff at a cost. I won't be losing any money. I hope not to lose any money. And those pieces that where I can make a profit, I'll make a profit, and hopefully they'll buy other things in the shop. That's the strategy. That's how I plan to beat these. You can't call them shadow bans, but these changes with the algorithms. I've got to make that leap to building my brand. I've got to get I've got to wean myself off the dependence and my dependency on eBay and the platforms, and I've got to create my own audience. Everyone's got to do it. Resellers, they're in a unique position really, because when I say unique, in a lovely position, because every item you get is unique in the sense that your acquisition costs are unique to that particular event, that particular item. The condition and the quality of it is unique, because another reseller might have the exact same item, but might be a different colour, or it might be an older vintage, an older thing, or it might be broken. There might some, you know what I mean. There's different things. They might have paid £10 for it. You might have got it for 50p. There's a very different dynamic at play, and it's a photograph list once kind of thing. Once it's gone, it's gone. You're on to the next find, you know. So you'll always have some kind of audience, but essentially doing what I am going to do is still doable for you, on account of the fact that if you've got your own website and the viewers on your socials like the item that you're demonstrating, they have a choice to go to eBay or to your shop. And if they go to your shop, they're your customer, or you can sell them the item to your customer at the same price as eBay. I would do a differential. I'd get the message across to people that, yeah, it's available on eBay, but you can get it cheaper on my shop. Because you want to build that audience. You want those people. Like I see Ricky resells. Every time he does a review, you know, he'll read the message from the buyer that he received on eBay, and it'll say, "Hello, Ricky. I just bought this plushie, or bought this Scale Electrics, or something like that. Or watch all your videos. I really love them. You're such an inspiration." That buyer, as far as I'm concerned, is Ricky's buyer, Ricky's customer, because they've found Ricky on the social media, but he has sold them the item on eBay. If he's got his own basic store, that person who bought on eBay would probably, in most likely, go and buy from him on his store. Why? Because they like him. They've already bought into his personality. He's a likeable guy, isn't he? You know, Ricky. They all are. Nick and Andrea, the retro reseller, the Brum reseller, the gentleman reseller, they're all lovely, nice people. And people gravitate to nice people. They like people like that. And they want to see them succeed. And ultimately, I don't think you should be embarrassed or worried about steering people to your own store. They want to be part of something. They want to be part of your brand and your success. They identify with you, and they're happy to give you their money in exchange for value. And you know, let's face it, the vast majority of things that people are selling there, they're valuable. They have their value. You know, they're reusable. You know, and so that's what I would do if I was you. I'd get on your own, get your own website going. You can get one for a couple of £100 a year. Learn how to use it. And I'm not saying don't use eBay, because I'm going to carry on using eBay. I just think that eBay is not prioritising small sellers. They don't see. It's not that they don't value us. It's just that they can't earn the money out of us. that they want to earn. And they've got to compete with the changing marketplace, and that's, with